Sit down, young lady. This isn't a classroom for your little speeches. The judge's gavel struck the desk like thunder. Maya Johnson didn't flinch. Her small hands trembled as she clutched her father's worn-out case file, but her eyes stayed fixed on the man in the black robe. "With all due respect, Your Honor," she said, "the evidence presented against my father doesn't match the police report." The courtroom erupted with whispers, a teenage girl challenging a sitting judge. Unthinkable. The judge smirked. "Evidence? You're what, 17? This is a courtroom, not a debate club. Do you even understand what a statute is?" Maya's father, Mr. Johnson, reached for her arm gently. "Maya, it's all right," he whispered. "You don't have to—" "Yes, I do, Daddy," she interrupted softly, her voice breaking for the first time. The bailiff stepped closer, sensing tension. "Your Honor, should I—" "No," the judge said, waving a dismissive hand. "Let her speak. This should be entertaining." The crowd snickered. One juror smirked. Another whispered something to his neighbor that made them both chuckle. Maya swallowed hard. Her eyes glistened, but she stood her ground. "You can laugh," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. "But the truth doesn't care how old I am. 3 weeks earlier, Maya had been sitting on the cold steps of their small home when 2 officers stormed into the yard. Her father had been under investigation for allegedly tampering with city property at his maintenance job, a charge everyone in their neighborhood knew was false. The man had built playgrounds for children, fixed school roofs, and shoveled snow for elderly neighbors. He wasn't a criminal. "Hands behind your back," one officer barked as he yanked Mr. Johnson's arms roughly. "For what?" Maya screamed. "He didn't do anything." "Public property damage," the officer replied coldly. "You people think rules don't apply to you." The phrase burned into her chest like acid. "You people." Her father's final words before the police car took him away were calm but heavy. "Don't cry, baby. I taught you the truth. Use it." And that night, Maya made a promise. She wouldn't cry. She would fight. For days, she scoured the internet, reading legal articles and watching courtroom trials. She didn't have a lawyer's degree, just determination and a quiet fire that refused to die. She spent nights in the public library surrounded by dusty law books. "Obstruction of justice, wrongful accusation, procedural misconduct," she whispered to herself, underlining phrases she barely understood. The librarian, an elderly woman who had watched her come every day, approached quietly. "Sweetheart, what are you looking for?" Maya looked up, her eyes fierce despite her exhaustion. "A way to free my dad." The woman hesitated, then smiled gently. "Then you'll need this." She handed Maya an old leather-bound volume, Civil Rights and Misconduct Laws, 1968-1995. That book became her weapon. Now, standing in the courtroom, she was about to use it. "Your Honor," Maya said, opening her notes, "the arresting officer stated my father was found near a vandalized city truck, but the timestamp on the security footage doesn't match the incident report." The judge sighed. "Young lady, you're not an attorney. You can't present evidence." "I'm not presenting," Maya replied evenly. "I'm questioning." The audience stirred again. She turned toward the prosecutor, who avoided her eyes. "Sir, can you confirm when the footage was submitted to the court?" The man shifted uncomfortably. "That's irrelevant to—" "It's not irrelevant," Maya interrupted, "because if the footage was submitted after the arrest, then the report was altered." A hush fell over the room. Even the judge paused, leaning slightly forward. "Are you accusing the city of falsifying evidence?" he asked slowly. "I'm accusing someone of lying," she said firmly. The judge's smirk faded. For the first time, Maya's words had weight. She continued, voice rising with confidence. "Your Honor, under Section 241 of the Civil Rights Act, tampering with evidence in a case involving a state employee is a federal offense. My father's arrest was based on that report, meaning this entire case." "Enough!" the judge barked, slamming his gavel again. But Maya didn't back down. "No, it's not enough. You mocked me for standing up for my father, but everything I've said can be verified. You wanted entertainment, so let's entertain the truth." Gasps echoed across the room. Her father's head dropped into his hands. The prosecutor's face had gone pale. The judge straightened his robe, his expression unreadable. "Bailiff, bring me the evidence log." Minutes passed in tense silence. Then the bailiff returned with the file. The judge scanned the document, and his expression shifted from irritation to confusion, then to disbelief. "The footage was submitted 3 hours after the arrest," he muttered. Maya didn't move. "Which means it couldn't have been used to justify my father's detainment." Her father's lawyer, who had been silent until now, stood abruptly. "Your Honor, in light of this revelation, I request an immediate suspension of the trial pending investigation." The judge didn't answer. He just stared at Maya, the girl he had dismissed as a joke minutes earlier. Finally, he said quietly, "Court will recess for 1 hour." The gavel came down again, softer this time, almost uncertain. Outside the courtroom, reporters had already gathered. The story was spreading fast. A teenage girl challenging a judge and exposing a procedural error. Maya sat beside her father on a wooden bench, holding his calloused hand tightly. "I told you I'd fight for you, Daddy." He smiled weakly. "You did more than fight, baby. You made them listen." But as they waited for the recess to end, a man in a dark suit approached. His badge gleamed under the fluorescent light. Internal Affairs Division. He leaned close and whispered, "Miss Johnson, you should be careful. What you just exposed goes higher than this courtroom." Her brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" He glanced around nervously. "That footage wasn't just altered, it was erased and rewritten. Someone in the department didn't want the real tape seen." Maya froze. "So you're saying—" He cut her off. "I'm saying your father's case is part of something much bigger." He slid a small flash drive into her hand and whispered, "If you want the truth, play this tonight. But be ready. The people you're up against don't lose quietly." Before she could respond, the man disappeared into the crowd. Her father looked at her, eyes wide. "Maya, what was that about?" She turned the flash drive over in her palm, heart pounding. The symbol engraved on it wasn't from the courthouse. It was from the state attorney's office. The same office prosecuting her father. As the courtroom doors reopened and everyone filed back inside, Maya clutched the flash drive tightly, her mind racing. She had won the battle, but now it was clear the war had just begun. "Quick question for you. What do you think is hidden on that flash drive? And how far should Maya go to uncover the truth?" The courtroom lights dimmed as the late afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows. Everyone waited for the judge to return, but Maya's mind was far from the bench. Her fingers traced the small silver flash drive in her pocket, the one handed to her by the mysterious man from Internal Affairs. She could almost hear his words echoing. "Be ready, the people you're up against don't lose quietly." Her father noticed the tension in her eyes. "Maya, what's wrong?" he whispered. She hesitated. "I think someone tried to cover something up, Dad. That man, he said the evidence wasn't just changed, it was rewritten." Her father frowned. "You've already done enough. Don't go digging deeper into things that could get you hurt." But Maya's eyes hardened. "They humiliated you, Daddy. They called you a criminal. If I stop now, they win." That night, in their small apartment, the room glowed dimly under the flicker of her laptop screen. Her father was asleep in the next room, exhausted from weeks of court hearings. Maya plugged the flash drive in. A folder popped up. Surveillance footage, original timestamp. She clicked it. The grainy video played, showing the parking lot where the city truck had been vandalized. But what she saw made her heart race. The timestamp read 7:46 a.m., and there was her father in his bright blue maintenance uniform, helping a woman fix her flat tire at the exact same time the report claimed he was committing the crime miles away. And then, in the corner of the screen, 2 police officers appeared. One of them, Officer Kane, was the same man who arrested her father. He was leaning against the truck, talking and laughing with someone in a black suit. Maya paused the frame, zooming in. The suited man's face came into focus. It was the prosecutor from her father's trial. Her heart pounded. They weren't just mistaken, they were working together. She whispered, "They framed him. The next morning, she returned to court with a calmness that didn't match the storm inside her. She clutched the flash drive so tightly it pressed marks into her palm. The courtroom was packed again. Reporters, spectators, and legal observers filled the benches. The story had gone viral overnight. Teen girl challenges judge in court and wins. The judge entered. The gavel struck. "Court is back in session," he said. "Miss Johnson, I assume you're ready to resume your performance?" Maya stepped forward. "I'm not performing, Your Honor. I'm presenting new evidence." The judge frowned. "You're not authorized to submit." "I know," she interrupted. "But as the daughter of the accused and as a citizen, I have the right to expose evidence of corruption." The room went silent. She held up the flash drive. "This footage shows that my father wasn't at the crime scene. It also shows 2 officers and your lead prosecutor colluding before the arrest." The prosecutor's face drained of color. "Objection! That's absurd!" But before he could finish, Maya handed the flash drive to the bailiff. "Play it," she said firmly. The screen flickered to life. Gasps filled the courtroom as the video played, the laughter, the handshake, the timestamp. The judge's eyes widened. "Mr. Howard," he said sharply to the prosecutor, "is this you?" The man stammered. This is edited footage." "No, it's not," Maya cut in. "The data file was verified by Internal Affairs. They gave it to me this morning." The prosecutor's jaw clenched. "She's lying!" The judge slammed his gavel. "Enough!" He turned to the bailiff. "Call Internal Affairs now." Within minutes, 2 agents entered the room. One of them, the same man who'd handed Maya the drive, nodded at her before facing the bench. "Your Honor," he said calmly, "that footage is authentic. We've been investigating evidence tampering in your district for 6 months. This trial exposed the final piece we needed." The crowd exploded into whispers. The judge sat frozen, his authority crumbling in real time. The prosecutor tried to flee, but 2 agents blocked his path. One snapped handcuffs around his wrists. The officers who had arrested Maya's father were also taken into custody. Maya turned to look at her father. Tears streamed down his face. "It's over, baby," he whispered. "You did it." The judge rubbed his temples, looking utterly defeated. "Miss Johnson," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology. Your courage has uncovered something far greater than I realized." Maya's tone was steady but sharp. "You didn't want to realize it, Your Honor. You just didn't think someone like me would notice." The courtroom applauded softly, not out of mockery, but out of awe. The gavel came down one final time. "Case dismissed. All charges against Mr. Johnson are hereby dropped. This court is adjourned." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed the steps. Cameras flashed. Microphones reached toward her. "Maya, how does it feel to have taken down a corrupt case? What's next for you and your father?" She smiled faintly, holding her father's hand. "Justice doesn't need a title," she said. "It just takes courage." Her father looked at her proudly. "You know, I used to think I had to protect you from the world. Turns out, you were the one protecting me." They both laughed, their tears mixing with relief. But just as they turned to leave, the same Internal Affairs agent approached again. "Miss Johnson," he said, lowering his voice, "you should know, this case isn't isolated. The corruption goes deeper. You may have made enemies today." Maya nodded slowly. "Then I'll study harder," she said, "because if they can manipulate the law, I'll master it." The man smiled faintly. "Maybe one day you'll be the one on that bench." Maya looked back at the courthouse doors. "Maybe," she said. "But until then, I'll keep fighting for people like my dad." Weeks later, the news broadcast told the story nationwide. Teen uncovers judicial corruption. Dozens of officials under federal investigation. Scholarships poured in from universities, law firms reached out, and civil rights organizations honored her bravery. But Maya stayed grounded. She spent her nights back in the same library, studying law, not for fame, but for understanding. When asked by a reporter what motivated her, she simply said, "Because somewhere another daughter is sitting in a courtroom right now, praying for someone to believe her dad is innocent." Life lesson. Courage isn't about shouting the loudest. It's about standing your ground when everyone tells you to sit down. Education and truth are the most powerful weapons you can wield against injustice. Question for you. If you were in Maya's shoes, would you have risked everything to expose the truth? Comment your answer below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that prove justice isn't about power. It's about persistence.